I think one of the main burning issues was that of accreditation, which has been, in fact, an infectious disease in a number of provinces, not just in Gauteng alone. We've seen this when the ANC was holding its BGMs, that is branch general meetings, and we've seen this again with regards to provinces like we saw in the Eastern Cape, for example, at the Provincial Conference. So this issue of accreditation has always been a burning issue. On this one in particular, it's something that, in my view, could have been easily avoided. Because you remember what happened in Ekurhuleni, where 5 branches were in fact attending the conference under questionable circumstances, and then subsequently the 19 votes that came from those particular branches had to be quarantined. And coming to this provincial conference, one would have expected that the senior leadership of the ANC in the province in Gauteng would have addressed this issue before, in fact, this provincial conference was held, so that we wouldn't be talking about the quarantined votes now that we're having a provincial conference. So that was one of the main issues, in fact, that delayed the conference, because some were asking the question, do they, in fact, qualify to participate in this conference? And then there were questions asked until the leadership had to convene a special meeting to try and resolve the issue. Only after that issue had been resolved, that then the conference started. But even then, there is still a question, because they are saying they will be allowed to participate, they will be allowed to vote, but then their vote will be quarantined. It doesn't make sense from a layman perspective. If you're just out there watching from a distance, it doesn't make sense, because you already knew about this problem while it was happening in Ekurhuleni. Why didn't you address it and wait for the day of the provincial conference and still find yourself having to deal with the same problem? It doesn't make sense.
Now, there are clear factional lines here. We heard from former Ekurhuleni Mayor Ms. Maile complaining about Premier David Makhura and all the law enforcement around the venue, calling it a war zone. The leadership contest itself playing out between Panyaza Lesufi and Maile. Can you explain which interests they represent and who has the favour of the president?
You know what, this one is a very interesting one, and we shouldn't be surprised, because this late politics is what has been, in fact, something that has characterized the ANC conferences lately. Whether they are talking about a branch general meeting, we are talking about a provincial conference, it's the same disease, it's late politics. You saw this happening in Limpopo, you saw this happening also in the Eastern Cape, you saw this happening in the eThekwini regional conference, for instance, and in fact in all the 11 regions in KwaZulu-Natal, it was state politics all the way through. So now with this one, I think there is something that is starting to emerge. If it were to be successful, it will be in fact something to be commended. That of saying that Panyaza Lesufi and of course Maile are now in conversation, trying to find common ground. If they were to succeed in doing that, then that would show astute leadership, because then it would move away from slate politics and say, we want to take some people who have all the credentials to lead the province from the slate of Mzwandile Masena, and then of course you also take some from say Panyaza Lesufi. Although the factions, in fact, the fight in this one, the contest on this one, is not necessarily between Mzwandile Masena. It's basically you say Maile and Lesufi. But because we know that Mzwandile Masena is known to be on the RET faction, or is said to be the supporter of the former president and those who have supported the president all the way through. And he has not been apologetic about that, which in fact distinguishes him as someone with a backbone, someone who doesn't move with the wind. You change today, you support this one, you change tomorrow, support that one. At least that one is done and dusted. But yes, what I see happening then between Maile has his own strengths and his own weaknesses. Panyaza Lesufi, in fact, for me, he seems to be enjoying my support. You recall when he was temporarily removed from his position as MEC for Education, there was an outcry even from some opposition parties. So then if we were to put these two together, I would say Panyaza Lesufi will have a slight edge. But then, as I said, there is something that we've just heard that they are now trying to find common ground. So that at least it's not slate politics, but to elect people based on their skills so that they can take the province forward.